Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
We begin tonight with the back and forth on the mask mandate in New York. The mandate is in effect for now after a judge struck it down on Monday, only to have an appellate court judge bring it back temporarily. Big Fox's Matt Kleindienst breaks down where we're expected to go from here.
Good evening, Ann. The state's mask mandate remains in legal limbo after Tuesday's reinstatement by an appellate court judge. The seesawing order has left many New Yorkers confused tonight. To mask up or not to mask up? That is the question after a series of court rulings earlier this week. On Monday, the New York Supreme Court ruled that Governor Hochul's school mask mandate was unconstitutional. The state's high court wrote that despite the governor doing what she believed was right, the case should be passed to the legislator. The mandate was properly reinstated by an appellate judge after Attorney General Letitia James appealed the ruling. New York's Department of Education stepped in shortly after and ordered all school districts to continue to follow the mask rule. In a letter to parents, Horsehead Superintendent Dr. Thomas Douglas urged parents to remain patient. The letter goes on to say that the school district must follow the Department of Education's ruling until a change is made. Attorney General Letitia James also released a statement saying the state will do everything they can to prioritize the health and well-being of all New Yorkers. Matt Kleindienst, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
New York Assembly Democrats will now be tasked to redraw the state's congressional districts. This comes after the State Redistricting Commission failed to reach a compromise on the congressional maps despite months of meetings. Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins released a statement saying lawmakers will take on the responsibility of drawing fair maps. A vote on the new congressional map is expected to occur next week. One person injured and dozens more displaced following a fire in Horseheads. Rescue crews were called to the Best Value Inn around 5 o'clock yesterday evening after reports of a room fire. Upon arrival, crews came across a burn victim who was later transported to the hospital. The fire caused significant damage to the building, resulting in 70 to 100 people being displaced. The cause of that fire is under investigation. A somber day for first responders in New York as they honor and mourn one of their own. Brian Yennis has more.
The body of fallen NYPD officer Jason Rivera moved from a funeral home to St. Patrick's Cathedral Thursday morning. Fellow officers and first responders lining the street to say farewell to a hero. The 22-year-old rookie cop was killed when he was ambushed during a domestic call last week. Rivera's 27-year-old partner, Officer Wilbert Mora, was also killed. Officials in New York are saying no more following the recent spike in violence.
We're going to go to those 30 precincts where 80% of the gun violence is now located and crack down on gun violence and the trigger pullers.
Mayor Eric Adams with some tough words for those, quote, trigger pullers. Adams says he's partnering with Governor Kathy Hochul, who just announced a new interstate task force on illegal guns. Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark says many of the illegal guns on the city streets arrive by a so-called iron pipeline from southern states.
I got real crime and real violence in my community, and I need to get ahead of it, and that's what I'm doing.
In the past week, an 11-month-old baby was hit by a stray bullet while strapped in a car seat in the Bronx. And in a separate incident, a gunman shot a patient while inside the emergency room at Jacobi Medical Center. All of this as the city continues to mourn its two fallen officers. The wake for Officer Jason Rivera begins at 1 p.m. and goes until 8 p.m. It is open to the general public. His funeral will be held on Friday. In New York City, Brian Yennis, Fox News.
Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer officially announcing his retirement today alongside President Biden at the White House. Breyer's intention to step down from the highest court is igniting speculation on whom Biden might nominate in his place. Madeline Rivera is in Washington with the latest.
People have come to accept this Constitution, and they've come to accept the importance of a rule of law.
Some heartfelt words from retiring Justice Stephen Breyer after more than 27 years on the bench. He's planning to step down at the end of the term this summer, so long as a replacement is nominated and confirmed. President Biden calling the retirement announcement bittersweet while reaffirming a campaign pledge.
The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
A possible short list includes state Supreme Court justices and a U.S. Circuit judge. Democrats are eyeing a quick confirmation process while they hold majorities in the House and the Senate.
We want to move quickly. We want to get this done as soon as possible.
A liberal nominee won't change the makeup of the court, which holds a 6-3 conservative majority. Still, many say the moment would be a much-needed win for Democrats heading into the midterm elections, with their key legislative priorities like voting rights and the Build Back Better bill stalled in Congress. The president's confirmation would ensure Breyer's seat stays liberal for decades to come.
They do think it will gin up their base, but it also is going to galvanize conservatives going into the election.
There are questions over whether President Biden is considering nominating Vice President Kamala Harris, but White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says the president has every intention of running for re-election with Harris as his partner. At the Supreme Court, Malva Rivera, Fox News.
The U.S. is pushing back on Russian demands while Moscow agrees to multi-party talks aimed at stopping a war in Eastern Europe. Steve Harrigan has more from Ukraine.
Russia signaled a possible de-escalation of tensions in Ukraine on Thursday, saying the idea of war is, quote, unacceptable. One day earlier, the U.S. responded to Russia's list of demands, rejecting its key request that Ukraine be barred from NATO membership. Russia says that is a deal breaker, but they are ready to start, quote, a serious conversation on secondary issues.
Ukraine has become a toy in the hands of NATO and primarily the United States, as Ukraine is being used as an instrument of geopolitical pressure against Russia.
Both sides have now agreed to maintain the status quo for another 2 weeks, while officials work on a diplomatic solution. Representatives from Russia, France, Germany, and Ukraine will then meet in Berlin with the goal of working out a more permanent agreement. But some NATO allies are floating the idea of using the 2-week pause to build up forces in Eastern Europe to help deter Russia's military.
The current security situation is worrying on the eastern flank of Europe as tensions in Ukraine continue to escalate.
Russia is also accusing the U.S. of preparing to deploy short and intermediate-range missiles to Europe, which it says could trigger another nuclear standoff. But there's increasing consensus on both sides that a war can be avoided, and a political solution is a more likely outcome.
I doubt that the war is actually, the military solution is actually on the table.
Ukraine's president says he welcomes the response from Russia, calling it one step towards peace. In Kiev, Ukraine, Steve Harrigan, Fox News.
Still ahead tonight, an expecting couple didn't make it to the hospital. Their daughter just couldn't wait to come into the world.
Of course, it was a sense of relief when she made that first cry.
How this husband, who is also a 4-year medical student, jumped into action.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Mattar. Good evening, everyone. Although we started off with frigid conditions with temperatures 16 degrees below zero, we did manage to warm up above what we had yesterday. So in Elmira, reporting about 5 degrees warmer than yesterday, where highs were around 20 degrees, 2 degrees warmer in Watkins Glen, but about 7 in Mansfield. We are expecting cold air to move in for tonight with a cold front that will be pushing through, but tomorrow morning won't be quite as cold as it was this morning. Temperatures around 19 degrees, so at least we'll be above 0 degrees. So we're going to plunge down to the teens tonight, and then as we head into early tomorrow, we are expecting some snow chances that will continue throughout the day. I don't expect any more than about ½ an inch of snow with this cold front coming in, but that cold front will introduce bitterly cold air for your Saturday. But we are going to be closer to normal temperatures heading into next week. In fact, I think we may even be above normal for the middle of next week. So for tomorrow, though, we do have a cold front that will sweep through our area. There will be some remaining snow behind it, and so our snow chances will continue throughout the day. But I think most of this will be moving out in the evening hours on your Friday. But again, colder air will start to take over. So here's a look at your temperature readings for Friday. We start off in the 20s, but then during the day, especially in the late afternoon to the evening hours, those temperatures will be plunging down into the single digits. So by 10 o'clock in the evening, we're looking at readings around 8 degrees. So that frigid air will return, at least for your Saturday. And then there's going to be a nor'easter that will be riding from the south to the north in the Atlantic. It looks like we're going to be far enough away where we are going to see minimal impacts. All I'm expecting are some clouds that will be moving in for your Saturday and Sunday. I don't expect any precipitation for us. I think that will be really confined to the coastal areas. But here, let's take a look at our future radar. At our snow chances, there will be some snow moving in with a cold front that will be pushing in. So around 7 o'clock in the morning, we will wake up to a few snow showers, but it looks like by noon, all this will be moving out. And then in the afternoon, mostly cloudy conditions. But overall, we are going to be a little bit drier on Saturday and Sunday. Just a few clouds trying to move in from the east from that nor'easter. But overall, I don't see any precipitation out of this. Tonight, temperatures diving down to around 19 degrees in Elmira, 22 degrees in Corning. Highs tomorrow will be in the low 20s, so it's going to be quite cold. And we are expecting even colder conditions for your Saturday as we plunge down to around 13 for the afternoon high, but big warm up for next week. But we do have more rain and snow in the forecast.
One conservation technique is making its way into the real estate market as people are buying multi-million-dollar pieces of land and allowing them to be reclaimed by nature. Ashley Stromier reports.
There are many ways to reduce your carbon footprint and help combat climate change, but a unique trend is sprouting up overseas in Scotland, where millionaires are buying large plots of land and converting them back into natural forest in a process called rewilding.
Kildrummy was operated as a shooting estate and so really intensely managed for that purpose.
This is the estate known as Kildrummy. Like many properties in Scotland that were used for hunting, Kildrummy's land was heavily maintained so certain types of game animals could thrive, with groundkeepers burning large sections to create better breeding grounds and even trapping certain predators to prevent them from interfering with the hunts. But that's all changing as more rewilders are banning hunting on their property and allowing natural plants to freely grow, letting animals and trees once eliminated from the land to make a comeback.
I think 100 years from now, if we get this right, much of Scotland is going to look like small parts of Scotland do today.
But not everyone is so keen with those pursuing this green initiative.
The people who are pushing this rewilding tend to be people from an urban background or foreign country who's come in here.
Critics also say rewilding threatens local hunting businesses and warn reintroducing certain wildlife could actually hurt the plants and animals currently living there.
Trucking school and the promise of big paychecks luring people of all career paths into the trucking industry, a move that could get the economy moving again. Kelly O'Grady has more.
Empty store shelves and rising prices during the pandemic, the supply chain disruption in part made worse by a truck driver shortage.
When you see trucks stop, America stops.
The nation facing an estimated shortage of 80,000 drivers, but the industry getting a jump start from a brand new big rig driving school in the Atlanta area. Some leaving what they thought would be their chosen profession to fill a need at the heart of America's supply chain crisis.
There's more opportunity now than ever. In the last 2 years, we've seen record pay increases. We're training 7,000 drivers this year. We're expecting closer to 9,000 drivers next year.
About 72% of America's freight moves by trucks, and with students learning to drive 18-wheelers at schools like this, it could help rev up the economy. And while there are some drawbacks, like long hours and days away from your family, the trucking industry has had to increase paychecks to compete for workers. Now, even those new to the road can drive America's highways with a starting salary in the six figures.
Maybe they can make $50,000, $60,000 a year doing their chosen profession. but they can make 100,000 plus driving trucks.
Meanwhile, only about 11% of the workforce is comprised of women drivers. But the trucking industry is shifting gears, hoping to get more females behind the wheel to help drive the economy.
I always had a passion for trucking.
Another way to help bolster the truck driving workforce, the Department of Transportation is considering dropping the legal age for truckers who drive across state lines from 21 to 18.
An expectant couple in Utah didn't make it to the hospital. Their daughter couldn't wait to come into the world. Chris Arnold has the story.
For Cade and Katie Walker, they call this a spontaneous miracle.
Good job. Oh, there she is. She's beautiful. She is out. Baby is crying.
Their 7-pound, 8-ounce daughter Kennedy, born inside of their car on the side of the road.
Of course, it was a sense of relief when she made that first cry.
From beginning to end, this all played out in just about an hour.
All of a sudden, had a contraction, and it was about 9:35, and then at 9:40, I stood up and my water broke.
Katie and Cade rushed to pack up their car and begin making their way from their home in Deweyville to Logan Regional Hospital, about a 30-minute drive. However, when they opened the garage to pull out, they found out it was snowing. It was just 10 minutes into their drive when the Walkers tell me they were making their way down this mountain pass on State Highway 30 when Katie said it was time to pull over right here on the side of the road in Beaver Dam.
I realized in that moment, we're going to have this baby right here on the side of the road in this little alcove, this perfect spot we could park, but it was a little overwhelming.
That's when Cade, a 4-year medical student, jumped into action. First, he called 911.
My wife is having a baby. We are in active labor.
Getting step-by-step directions from the dispatcher.
We have towels, we've got blankets.
I said, okay, we'll recline the front passenger seat and we'll make this happen.
Cade worked to help deliver his daughter, helping keep his wife calm and focused throughout the entire process, until Kennedy finally arrived.
I guess you can just have a baby whenever.
Cade says paramedics showed up about 7 minutes later and took both Katie and Kennedy to the hospital.
Because this is where the ambulance pulled up, right here.
Now, just 5 days later, back where it all happened, the Walkers say it's surreal. This served as a place where they would welcome their daughter into the world.
It just feels like it just happened last night, but also happened so long ago.
Disney has responded to criticisms from actor Peter Dinklage over its upcoming live-action Snow White remake. Dinklage spoke out against the movie on a podcast recently, saying it has a backwards depiction of dwarfs. In a statement to Variety, a Disney spokesperson said they're taking a different approach with the 7 characters to avoid reinforcing stereotypes from the original animated film, and that they've been consulting with members of the dwarfism community. Apple creates a new personal safety guide for users who are concerned about stalking if one device is used. AirTags help people keep track of their items, such as keys, wallets, and purses. However, because the tags track items, there are concerns the technology could be used to track people's locations. Apple has now released a personal safety user guide to help anyone who's fearful they may be followed or harassed. A former high school football kicker suffers a spinal cord injury and is making a comeback. Steve Nielsen reports.
This is not an ordinary moment, not an ordinary kick, and not an ordinary smile.
When I think about it, I'm like, man, like I'm actually doing this, like I'm actually kicking, and I've accomplished my goals that I've set.
Kristen Muir is tougher than most. A year ago, she was in a car accident with her boyfriend. The athlete was partially paralyzed below the waist and told she may never walk again, let alone kick. She made her mark as a field goal kicker at Marcos de Niza High School just a few years ago. Since the crash, she became the kicking coach at the school, but kicking again herself, even she didn't believe it was possible at first.
No, not at all, honestly, because I was like, first I have to be able to get up, and then I have to walk, and I have to make sure I can take steps and have my balance and all this. And so I was still pretty wonky with all that, so I was like, I don't know if like I'll be able to kick. And then the times that I tried by myself, it was like, very low, and I was like, oh man, like this is not gonna work, but it totally did. And I mean, it was just the time and the patience that really came through.
She trains 3 times a week at Move Performance. They never let doubt slip in.
And so with her, that one of our goals was to let's get her to kick again. And we waited, we did soccer ball, and the time is right, and now she's here. But this is bigger than sports. This is more about life.
I mean, we're all just like so ecstatic about it, very happy about it, and very hopeful that it's just gonna get better from here.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. Los Angeles County lifeguards rescue a dog from waters off Malibu after the dog swam more than 600 yards from shore. The lifeguards shared video of the rescue on Twitter. It happened at Nicholas Canyon Beach. The lifeguards were happy to rescue the dog, but also took the opportunity to remind people that dogs are not allowed on Los Angeles County beaches. Very glad for this happy ending. From our whole team, thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great night.